to take a look at it. If not, I've shared the link to it yesterday as well. I've noticed a lot of questions coming in after the workshop, so we will use this as an opportunity to answer all your uncertainties regarding my system, my strategy, and for higher time frame trading and investing. So let me just share my screen. This is not going to be the typical stream, right? This is going to be just me answering your questions. First come, first serve. Let me just see if there are any streams after this Q&A, so I'll let you guys know how long I can stay. Okay, so we have 55 minutes, so I suggest we don't lose any time and we get going straight away. Ask anything that you want, obviously not my thoughts on this coin, on that coin, or entries for that coin, but more about my strategy and my trading style. Let's go OrpheX. I have a more practical question, which is how you go about scooping out your levels on stuff like USD dominance or others like Teacher Man, to fish, etc. All right, it's actually not super complex, if I'm honest. I think especially if you do this on higher time frames, it is quite easy to do, right? So like for others, for example, if you look at the daily, it becomes very clear where the price has reacted in the past, right? So if you look at others, for instance, we know that 300 billion to 290 billion, basically just based on previous price action. We have several instances where this level has either served as support or as resistance, right? So we just base these levels on historical data. Now you might want to include the wicks, you might want to include the daily closes only. It depends a bit from index to index. I think for a more accurate analysis, you have to include the wicks as well. It gives you the entire picture, right? In some cases, it might be only the candle closes, but usually I look at the wicks as well, especially on higher time frames, because on higher time frames, this wick alone, for instance, is a relatively big move compared to lower time frame levels, right? So it's not really something extraordinary I do. It's just based on experience. Here again, you see price rejecting, then the breakout, short-term consolidation. So you know that when the price has rejected at a level a few times and it breaks, then at some point it will come back and serve as support. In this case, we were in a downtrend, for instance, so it did serve as a support, but not like higher time frame support. So the moment it got lost, we started rejecting off it again and again. Then it got broken. Then we got the retest here, which is the breaking point, right? And then recently we found acceptance below it, broken again. So what we would expect is after rejecting here, that the price can come back down and retest this area again. So it's just a simple support and resistance, nothing extraordinary. Now, of course, you can also base these support and resistance areas on POC levels, like with 268 billion for others that we discussed the other day. It bounced off our support zone because it was a POC level, in addition to being a point where the price has reacted from historically speaking. So it's just this really. Of course, when it comes to other indexes, we can also use diagonal trend lines, especially with USDT dominance. I like to do that, right? When USDT dominance perfectly reacts out of a trend line, right? So we can use that diagonally as well. in addition to horizontal support and resistance areas. But that's mainly the logic behind it. It's nothing more than that, to be honest. And I think you'll get better at this with experience. If that's not clear, then just ask a question again, or FX, or just add any follow-up question. Maybe if there's time at the end, because this is about higher time frame, last 30-minute dip on USDT and BTC, how would you have opened a long scope there? Can you please explain, like in total beginner? If you can at the end of this video, since I can do it now, since you're the second one asking. This was pretty clear, to be honest, and I'll show you the confluences here. So you see on lower time frames the price dropping, right? While the RSI is rising, not perfectly, but still rising. So you have some form of a 3 drive here, which means that sellers are losing momentum on this asset, right? So what you could have done here, obviously you don't long here. You wait for this div to form, right? Which is let's do this actually. So let's say you're in this position and you see the 30-minute RSI at oversold, but this is not a divergence yet, right? Without the divergence, you don't have any setup to long here, right? Just because it is oversold doesn't mean that Bitcoin will necessarily bottom here. But you let some price action develop, right? And you see price is starting to drop, while the drop in the RSI has stopped, right? It's basically rising, and it's forming this divergence on the 30-minute. And if you let more price action develop, you notice that it's becoming a 3 drive actually, right? So here you can easily long this, and the invalidation would pretty much be either below this wick manually. I wouldn't necessarily suggest a hard stop because it can just wick down here, take you out, and then close the 30-minute above this and play out the 30-minute divergence. But I would do it manually if you see a 30-minute candle closing below this trend line, for example. Or in some cases, well, this is not the perfect case, but I'll give you a better example from a few weeks ago. June, this is a perfect 30-minute div for BTC. So here again, tapped, oversold, right? Pumped, but no div, came back down to form the divergence. Here again, you can either use the 30-minute RSI coming lower than the first peak, or you can basically cut if it starts accepting below here and invalidates the div. But this is only about candle closure, right? Not the wick. You have to wait for the candle closure. So if it starts accepting below here, say these 30-minute candles wouldn't have closed this way, but on the other side, and this RSI here starts making lower lows, then the divergence is invalidated. And usually that is very tight, right? It happens in a very small range. So yeah, you will end up losing some money if you try this, but it's not a lot, and your risk is managed. Now, in addition to BTC forming that the divergence just now, you also had USDT dominance doing the same right here. A 3 drive as well, actually. So USDT dominance rising while the RSI is losing momentum. So this is a divergence, and you are aware that Bitcoin is forming a divergence as well. So you can try along Bitcoin and maybe some other assets as well. in confluence with this. And here the same situation, if this peak, for instance, would have started closing above this one here, it would have invalidated the divergence, and you would consider cutting that long position. Hope that makes sense. How much time do you spend trading on higher time frames? Is it easy to combine with other activities? Absolutely. I mean, the more higher time frame you look at the markets, the less you need to be in front of your setup, right? I think lower time frames, like 15-minute or 30-minute, is more for people that do not have other jobs, right? That are full time into trading, because it does require a lot of paying attention and monitoring price action. On higher time frames, you wouldn't care about this 30-minute divergence on Bitcoin. You know what I mean? This is completely irrelevant. If you're, let's say, a spot holder, why would you bother? But on higher time frames, let's say daily and beyond, you don't have to pay attention every day. Maybe you can just place your alerts here and there, and then that doesn't require a lot of activity. For example, in April, we did have a 3-day bull div on BTC. You could have used that to buy spot and only sell once it starts doing daily or 3-day bearish divergences, but not before that. And anything happening here for you would be irrelevant, right? Because you would have alerts placed here on the RSI on the 3-day. You would be notified when this would hit, and then you know it's time to start paying attention, because this asset is coming to a zone where I potentially can TP. So definitely less activity. I often see you switch which indexes you cover and pay attention to, sometimes more focused on total 2, others, and other times more BTCD, ETH, BTC. Can you explain your thought process on this and when to focus on what? Yeah, absolutely. There are different indexes I use. I said it many times. You don't have to make sense of all of them, right? It is important to have confluence from Bitcoin and at least one index. Others is for mid caps strictly. I don't use others if I'm trading Solana, XRP, Ethereum, Bitcoin. I don't care about that. I use others and others dominance when I trade something like Sui, Tau, Pepe. Others tells me when it's time to buy it and when it's time to sell. Others dominance tells me when mid caps can gain strength and when they can lose strength, right? Depending on whether it is overbought or oversold. USDT dominance is I think if you don't want to bother about the total charts, you just use USDT dominance, because basically everything is covered in this: Bitcoin, Ethereum, mid caps, low caps, right? So you use this one, or total market cap if you are more into understanding the overall situation with the market, including BTC and Ethereum, while you use total 3 or others if you're more into alts. Total 3, obviously, also including high caps like Solana and XRP. And then dominance indexes, they're not necessarily related with other indexes, but they show you when Bitcoin could be losing strength and when it could gain strength. Like when it did print that daily bearish divergence a few weeks ago that we caught here, you know that it's time that on the next drop in the market, you don't buy Bitcoin, but you buy Ethereum or altcoins, right? Because this tells you that in the next few weeks, there's a high probability that that the Bitcoin dominance may drop. So it is more about informing you about the asset selection rather than telling you support or resistance areas for the market, if you know what I mean. Whereas on the other hand, if this comes to a support zone, starts printing a daily bullish divergence, for example, it shows you that Ethereum and altcoins may be losing strength soon, right? So it might be a good idea to take some profits or even consider shorting altcoins, right? Because you want to short altcoins when Bitcoin dominance looks bottomed and when there's a strong possibility that Bitcoin dominance may rise in the future, because you know that altcoins will become weaker, but also way more sensitive to declines in BTC, right? So I hope this makes sense, Mara. One thing I struggle with on the system is like how to keep up with different indexes and diffs printing on all. Do you use a way of setting divergences alerts, or do you just look manually? I actually look manually at everything. I mean, there is that divergence indicator that comes with Poppy's POC bundle, but I don't really use that. I really check everything manually. But as I said, you don't have to make sense of all the indexes. I do look at them, but you can literally just look at BTC, USDT dominance, and then others. For instance, if you trade altcoins, like three things you need to look at. And then when it comes to dominance indexes, it's Bitcoin dominance, others dominance, and maybe ETH BTC, three dominance indexes. It's really not a lot. And then I just go from time frame to time frame. You know, I start with the 4 hour. I see where the RSI is, if there's any divergence forming. I go to the 8 hour. I check the 12 hour. And in some instances, for example, they may be a divergence forming on the 12 hour, but not on the daily, right? So I just focus on the 12 hour then. Like with ETH BTC, for instance, as discussed a bit earlier in my corner, I noticed a 12-hour divergence that is forming now, but I don't have a daily divergence, for example. See what I mean? No daily divergence, so this time frame becomes irrelevant for me. I do keep monitoring the 12-hour time frame. In this type of scenario, how are you entering and exiting market order limit, layered limits? Same with higher time frame trades. What are okay? How I enter. So let's take an example. Today, it was a bit more difficult to enter. Why? Because there was no POC here, right? So when I see, first of all, let's just play this back. Let's say we are here. Let's say we are here. You see that BTC has printed a 30-minute bearish divergence, which it has not invalidated, right? So what does this tell you? There's a very high probability that this divergence, bearish divergence, will play out and lead to a deeper drop in Bitcoin, right? At least towards the RSI reset on the same time frame. Because if there's a 30-minute bearish divergence, you will look for a 30-minute RSI reset. RSI reset meaning going from overbought to oversold. You don't care about the 4 hour because there's no 4 hour divergence, right? You only care about this 30-minute. Now let's let some price action develop. Not oversold yet, right? Not oversold. There's a dip, but it's not oversold. When it's not oversold, I don't take it. I don't care about it. I want it oversold. Boom. See? Now, what we have here is that you are notified that BTC is at an oversold area, right? So you can say, I anticipate that a 30-minute divergence may form here. The problem is you need confirmation because it's hard to speculate beforehand that it will form because there's no POC level. So what you need to do is you actually need to watch it play out, form, and then you can enter market here. If there was a POC level around these levels, right? Let's say there was a POC here, you could place a limit and then wait for the confirmation. And if it's confirmed, you're in the position, potentially in a very good entry. And if it starts invalidating, then you just cut. Usually, I always wait for confirmation. Usually, sometimes I do place orders when we are around here because I see how the RSI is shaping up, right? I see the price dropping and RSI starts increasing. So if there's a POC that I can play here, I place an order, maybe at the POC, maybe above it. Doesn't matter, but usually I wait for confirmations, and confirmations for me in this time frame is basically price action on the 30-minute. I need some candle closers on the 30-minute before understanding if this divergence is forming out or not. So mostly market entries, yeah. Sometimes limit entries if there's POC levels to be played. Let me see if I can give you a good example. Yeah, I got one. So is this the one? Yeah, I think so, yeah. Let's take this as an example. We have a POC here, right? Or is this a good example? Let me just check. Yeah, it's a good example. It's a good example. Here, for instance, you were notified. Let me play this back. There we go. You were notified that BTC is oversold on the 30-minute, right? But you don't have a divergence yet. Price action develops, and you see the RSI rising. And what you can do here is you can say, since I have a POC level, I can speculate that price will come down here and print a 30-minute divergence. You can speculate because you have a POC cluster, right? You have the entry levels basically. And now price action develops. It comes to fill your order and then closes above and prints the divergence. And at this point, you basically have the confirmation because you have 2 or 3 candle closures that confirm that divergence, and you have a good entry because you got filled on a wick, but you have a POC level. You know what I mean? So this scenario is a bit different from the scenario today. Okay. Because today it was a bit more difficult to enter because we didn't have a POC, so you had to wait it out and see if you get these candle confirmations, and you also have CPI basically, which can also mess up your setup. X. Hopefully that answers your question. Does it matter excluding USDC from USDT dominance? I've never done this. I think there are a few traders that do this, Orphex. I think, if I'm not completely mistaken, Nodi does that, but correct me if I'm wrong. To me, USDT dominance is super, super reliable. It's actually a cheat sheet to higher time frame trading, lower time frame as well, but higher time frame, this is super, super accurate if you learn to master it and if you learn to understand the higher time frame levels. I mean, how many times were we able to forecast a rally in the market just based on these uptrends breaking 3 times in the last few months and years, right? And higher time frame levels are also respected quite nicely. Now, of course, you may not use this when you're trading based on 5-minute divergences, right? It's not that relevant, but this gives you a very good understanding on higher time frames when it's time to buy, when it's time to sell, especially if you combine it with divergences on the daily. As I've said before, in the last few months, for example, USDT dominance has always bottomed after it printed daily bullish divergences, a 3 drive in this case, a regular bullish divergence in this case, which led to a full daily RSI reset. And yeah, we have a daily here as well, divergence, right? We don't have a daily divergence yet, which is why I've been saying that I'm not confident yet that this is the bottom for USDT dominance. I think it can drop a bit more in the near term and form something like this, and that then should be your trigger for taking bigger profits across the market. What is the approximate expected win rate of your higher time frame trading strategy, bro? I assume it's less risky. I mean, modesty aside, maybe others can judge it better, but we've been able to catch all or most of these extreme levels in the market in the last few weeks and months. Maybe somebody else can give a more unbiased a comment on that and a better feedback. But real higher time frame. I mean, the margin of errors is bigger, right? You can afford to make bigger mistakes if you're trading on lower time frames and you have a 1% stop loss. Obviously, you have to be very accurate, right? While on higher time frames, I mean, for example, the support zone it's quite wide, right? So this is a 5 to 6% move, maybe 10% move on some coins. That makes a difference. But of course, the more higher time frame you go, the better will your hit rate will be. And of course, you take less trades. Maybe there will be days of not taking any trade. But I mean, it depends a bit on your strategy. I had 2 swing trades this month. We are 2 weeks in. I had a Sui and a Pepe long that really printed for me. But in between, I didn't do much, right? I did catch like, I don't know, 30% move on both. And that's only based on higher time frame analysis. So it depends what you want. Do you want 2, 3 trades a month that are swings, or do you want 30 trades a month, with 2 to 3% moves each? And of course, the more lower time frame you get, the less errors you can make, and of course, the more you need to be active and monitor the price action in the market. Can you help me understand better when a demand or supply zone is broken down? For example, is it considered lost if cut through fully with the wick, or on higher time frames, it's always daily closers, and the wicks don't really matter. Like with Total 2, we just recently had a zone breached, right? Which was this 1.28 trillion area. And as soon as you saw, in this case, you can consider the daily closers, right? The highest daily closer was 1.26 trillion, and the moment you see the daily closing above this, you have pretty much confirmation that it's breaking above this area here. So I wouldn't consider the wicks on more higher time frames. Are we too late now? I don't think so. I don't think so, because look at this, broke out and then came back to retest it. See here, and you could have bought here. On higher time frame, you don't care about catching this breakout, because you know that even if this breaks out at some point, this will come and retest it again. On higher time frame, I personally don't care that much. Or here, for instance, when it broke out, it did give this retest again, and then this is like a 20-30% move on altcoins from this demand zone that got reclaimed. Yes, it does take some time, right, before it comes. This is like several days, but it's just way more safe for you as a higher time frame investor, because now you know that it's already breached, right, and that this is confirmed support. Whereas on a wick, it's always possible that the market runs into resistance and just starts dropping again and closing the daily even below this, right? And that's not a confirmed breakout. If I just skip any question by accident, just bring it back up, guys. How much bigger are your swing trades versus scalp short-term trades? A lot. A lot. 10 to 1, I would say. Like when I buy a spot, which I don't do that often, I probably use like 10, 15, 20% of my entire portfolio. Whereas with lower time frame scalps, a lot less, maybe 1, 2% or something like that. But that's because the conviction in higher time frame trades is bigger, right? Like if you buy a spot, let me give you a good example. Sui is the one of the best coins to trade on higher time frames. One of the best. Why? Because it always gives you a higher time frame divergence before reversing. What I mean with that, 3-day bearish divergence, 3 drive before topping out, daily bull div when bottoming, then another daily bear div here, right? So you always get something like this for Sui, which is why I don't think it's topped out yet, because we don't have a daily bearish divergence. So if you see something like this for Sui, you know it's time to sell your bag. But what I wanted to say with this is that if you have a daily bullish divergence, it's even more confluence that this is a macro bottom, because the daily basically means that most sellers are out and exhausted, right? So there's barely any sellers left, and the price will be met by people interested in bidding this daily bullish divergence. So here, of course, I go in pretty big. And actually, we did buy this here in April. Did cut a bit too early, but we still caught this bottom. Whereas with scalps, especially on 30 minutes divergences, the conviction is not as big. And not only that, but the potential move that you can catch is a lot smaller, right? So I usually go in a bit with less capital for sure. For example, okay, oops, sorry. In the example you just gave about breaking out, is it too risky to enter above the ideal bottom level in order to ride the wave? That's not my style. I mean, you can try it, but that's personally not my style. Mother. Rag, are you able to possibly take a alt TA of the USDT and do a top-down analysis of how actually you do your TA? And since we know it's, yeah, I'll do that in a second. Okay, makes sense. Okay, for example, recently you anticipated others would move to 290, 300 billion, even though I missed some bottom entries on some coins. I ended and rode the wave. Was I just lucky? I don't know your triggers. Maybe you were. Hard to answer that. Oh, are we dumping again? Wow. Today's price action has been wild. USDT dominance. Honestly, if you're confused by all of this, just ignore everything and focus on USDT dominance and Bitcoin, of course. I mean, Bitcoin is the king. Never just ignore Bitcoin. USDT dominance on higher time frames. This is basically trading in a big range, right? Big range. We have some form of range highs here. If you don't want to include the wicks, we just look at the line chart. We just consider the highest daily close here and here. Makes it a lot cleaner, right? So range highs. How do we know it's range highs? Very simple. Price has historically reacted from this level, right? 4 times. Now, here we have range lows, right? How do we know that? Price has historically reacted from this level. We didn't know that here, but we know it. We did know it here, and we know it now, right? Which is also why letting price action develop is very, very important. What do we notice apart from range highs and range lows? Is we notice these uptrends for USDT dominance. And again, here we can also look at the daily only, right? Reacted, reacted, reacted. Then here again, uptrend, a bit faster of an uptrend, right? And then here again. We had 3 times the same scenario where USDT dominance went into an uptrend, held a meme line, and then broke down, broke down, broke down. Now, apart from understanding range highs, range lows, of course, you can look at a mid range. Where did price react? Here, 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 here. This is your mid range. If you want to make it more specific, right? Now you have your levels on higher time frames on the daily. You can do the same on lower time frames. You can do the same on the 30 minutes. You can do the same on the 4 hour. It doesn't matter. On higher time frame, you have your levels. Now, what this will help you with is understanding that if the price drops here, you know this is range lows. How will the sentiment be here? Everybody calling for higher, bull run, all season, BTC going to zero, end of the cycle bear market, right? It's just unnecessary noise. What I do when the market moves extremely, I turn off Twitter and I turn off the Discord. I don't look at anybody. I just look at this or any other index that I trust. Now, of course, you don't just start shorting blindly when you get into one of these zones. This is where local triggers come into play, like the divergences that I mentioned, right? Let's just zoom in a bit. Here, the price, at this point, we know that price is coming to range lows, or USDT dominance is coming to range lows, right? So we will look for local triggers to form to understand if it's time to sell or not. Let's see if we can replay. No, we cannot replay. Great. At this point, we have a daily divergence right here. This is already in the zone, in the range lows. How do we know it's in the zone? Because it reacted previously to it here. So you start taking some profits here, and you say that if it breaks down from the zone, I still have exposure to the market, right? In case this divergence breaks, I still have exposure to the market, but I will also have secured myself in case that this divergence actually plays out. So once more price action developed, you basically notice that it is printing a 3 drive on the daily, right? And you never just ignore a 3 drive on the daily. You don't, because they rarely get invalidated. And here you just sell everything. Let's say it gets invalidated. Okay, so be it. I have a lot of stables. I'll wait for this breakdown. It comes back here. Now this is the resistance. This is where you buy and where you ride everything higher. Never go with the thinking that, okay, I have the 3 drive. This is at support. But if I sell, I'm going to miss an all season. No, you're not. Because you're up in huge profits, right? And yes, of course, if it breaks down, you're going to miss a few more percentages. but then you can bid again based on confirmation. So here again, USDT dominance, we did have a 4-hour bullish divergence, yes, yesterday, here, and here, right? Divergence, which led to a nice pullback in the market. But if you know the historical price action of USDT dominance on the daily, you know that USDT dominance is not gonna bottom or macro bottom based on a 4-hour bullish divergence. It's gonna form some form of a daily, right? And we don't have a daily yet. We don't have a 12-hour. We don't have a 3-day yet. But if it comes to this range loss again and you start seeing a similar price action as here, something like this, and then the RSI does something like this, okay, we're at range lows and we're printing a daily bullish divergence. And I guarantee you that if this happens, Bitcoin will have a daily bearish divergence. And when you have confluence from 2 or 3 different charts or indexes, it's time to start cashing out and taking bigger profits. And then, of course, you can use other indicators such as the fear and greed index. When it's extreme greed, usually around these levels, you start taking profits. When it's extreme fear, usually around these levels, you start buying, right? Or you can look at funding rates, or you can look at open interest. Usually, open interest is very high when the market has pumped a lot because more retail participants join the market and start chasing the price on perps, right? And naturally, open interest starts increasing, and the possibility of the top being close increases as well. I hope that's helpful, Reg. If not, then just let me know if you have more questions. Where did you learn all of this system? And it's really impressive. Honestly, just by experimenting on myself, I've never seen anybody that uses RSI on indexes. Of course, I didn't invent the RSI tool, it's been here, but I've mostly seen people use it on assets. I've personally learned using it on indexes as well because I found it reliable. And honestly, just by experimenting, trying to understand different indexes, and naturally, I just build a system. It's not like I learn something from somebody else. Of course, in Wealth Group, you get to have access to a lot of content, right? You can see something somebody else uses, but I would say the system is quite authentic. What do you guys think? I think the combination of indexes and dominance indexes and RSI and a few other things we look at is quite unique. So I've honestly just build it naturally over time. How do you take profits in such situation? The daily dips on USD just short, for example. I mean percentage wise. Also maybe an example. How do you TP on lower time frames? Daily, as I said, daily. When I get a confirmation of a daily, I'm out 50% at least. 3 drive, I'm out fully. There's no reason for me to have exposure when I see a 3 drive on the daily on USDT dominance. On more lower time frames, I mean 4-hour, you don't use 4-hour for long-term bags, right? You use it more for scalps. If you get a 4-hour divergence, you close your scalp fully. No reason to hold it. What do you think about things like M2 money supply? I feel like sometimes people overuse this indicator where I feel it's just because there's more liquidity doesn't mean it's going up to Bitcoin and alts. Yeah, I mean context is of course important. I do pay attention to the macro. Of course, I'm a macro guy, and I do use indicators like M2, but not on a daily basis. It's just more to understand where we stand in the financial cycle. You know what I mean? Like when M2 is really up for months and months and months, I know we're coming close to the end of the cycle. Whereas when it's down for months, I know that we're coming to the end of the bear market, right? Because we simply anticipate that central banks will not be able to afford to continue draining liquidity out of the markets forever, right? And usually that's the reason why bear markets exist. Yes, it is important, but not like on an intraday, intra-week perspective. It's more to tell you where we stand from a macro cycle, in the macro cycle, more or less. Is it recorded? I think so. Is Cyprus? Yeah, Cyprus is here. It's recorded. Got you, Reg. All right. Is there anything I forgot? Any question I skipped by accident? Of course, nothing on purpose. We have 10 more minutes. If you have questions, guys, let me know. This is your chance. Where are we in the market? Oh wow, yeah. Today's CPI data wasn't really good, to be honest. It did sound good, maybe, but it's not super good, and we can see that. Oh, we can see that from the dollar. I mean, this is not how the dollar reacts when it expects soon rate cuts. Exactly what we said in the corner as well. Can you go through what alerts you set up, please? Oh man, I do set a lot of alerts for price levels, POC levels, on the RSI, mostly on every time frame. I'm interested in the 70 area and the 30 area to understand when an asset is going to oversold or when it's climbing to overbought. I do it for any time frame, daily, 12-hour, 8-hour, 4-hour, 1 hour, 30-minute, for any asset of interest, more or less. So that's where I use alerts. And then, of course, apart from the assets of interest and on indexes as well, like total market cap, for instance. Like this is now, for example, let's get rid of this. This is my zone of interest for total market cap. So I obviously have 2 or 3 alerts here that notify me when this zone is being approached, but on the RSI as well. So a lot of alerts, but obviously you need an upgraded version of TradingView to be able to set more alerts. A bit off topic, given you're focusing on higher time frame, you ever consider liquidity providing on chain? No, not really. How do you overlay previous price action, for example, on previous trends on Bitcoin? How do you overlay previous price action, for example? Oh, you mean the bar pattern? This one. You just go to this one. You press bar pattern, then we just select the period you're interested in. You drag this line and just it prints this one, and then you can drag it wherever you want and compare it with the current price action, if that's what you're asking. Where would you assume the top of the cycle? Are we close? Oh man. This is not about my strategy, right? So it's a bit off topic. But I think we topped this year because of where the dollar is sitting right now. Here, macro range lows and some higher time frame divergences forming on BTC, like the weekly, 2-week, and the monthly. I don't want to give an estimation in terms of price. I don't do that. But I mean, if for instance these 2-week divergences play out, so like this, then maybe somewhere around 130, 140. But that's it regarding this topic. You can ask me in fundamentals, please. Just a compliment about your system. It's better than any TA book or YouTube content I read and consumed. You should write a comprehensive book about it. I'm sure you'll make good money. Appreciate that, man. Thank you for the comment. And thank you for all the support all the time, Madok. You've been around for a long time. I appreciate that. Yeah, TV upgrade is very important. I mean, especially if you're in trading intensively and on a daily basis. I mean, if you don't have a subscription to TradingView, what's the point? All right, all right, all right. Anything else? Oh, we're dropping quite a lot. Look at this. Is that why Bitcoin dominance dropped earlier? Okay. We got a bit more, I think. Doing some charts now. Do you also see a 4-day bearish div on hype that will be valid only upon daily close? Hype? 4-day? And don't know. There are definitely some higher time frame divergences forming. I don't see the RSI here, Rack, but I see the price. And if you have something like this on the RSI, then yes. Yes would be the answer to that question. But this, yeah, this could be indicative of a divergence. Just make sure to look at the RSI, which I don't see for whatever reasons. Others melt to 250. I think it's possible. I think it's possible. Yeah, it's probably because of the history. You're right, Dejan. You're right. You're right. You're right. Okay, 4 more minutes. What do we got? Somehow we always move when I'm on stream. Oh man, we're dropping quite a lot. Yeah, I mean the CPI data wasn't bullish, man. If you read the write-up right after it in my corner, then you were aware of it. Bull run over, more likely to form 3 die before. Bull run over, I think we're coming to the last weeks and months of the bull run. We've been up only for 3 years, guys. But over now, I don't think so. I think Bitcoin still can go a bit higher. Last quick questions. Yeah, go ahead. I want this for total market cap. It's a nice zone. BTC just made a 30-minute bull dip and USD a 30-minute bear. What if after this dip it does the same somewhere today? Would you still be valid or too soon after each other? If it's a bull dip, it's a bull dip. It doesn't really matter if it's too soon. But and it can be on the same level, right? Yeah, so it cannot do a 30-minute bull dip here, for instance, anymore. Doesn't make any sense because RSI also went above 50. I mean, not necessarily. It depends a bit on the market. We don't always get the full reset. And this 30 minutes is a bit tricky because it's not in the context of, let's say, the 4 hour being oversold or the 8 hour being oversold. Like here when we had a 30-minute div, or here, right? Bitcoin was oversold on the 8 hour and forming a 30-minute bullish divergence. So you know it is forming a 30-minute bullish divergence while the asset is already massively oversold, right? Whereas here it did form, but yeah, it was, I mean, oversold in the 1 hour, not really on more higher time frame. So you know not enough people have capitulated here for this to be a swing entry, if you know what I mean. All right, one more minute, maybe a last question. Then I think there's a stream after this one, so I don't want to take away anyone's time. And if there's no time for your questions, of course, I'm on the fundamentals as always. Do you use things like monthly open? No, I don't. Monthly open, daily open, CME gap, it's totally irrelevant for me. Perfect. All right. That's it, guys. Hope this was helpful. If there's still things that are not clear, let me know on the fundamentals. I'm always there. I always answer. You can also look at the strategy workshop that has been recorded. You can find it under recordings or announcements. If you want to look at the full video, it's like 90 minutes or even more, 2 hours. So I hope you find this helpful, guys. Thank you for joining. Have a nice rest of the day and stay safe trading. Take care.